application. And secondly, SOLUTIONSplus, which is a project on integrated urban electric mobility solution in the context of the Paris Agreement, the SDGs, and the new urban agenda. So let's start by the first presentation of the Assured project by Professor Igassi, who is a professor at the Department of Electric Machine and Energy Technology in the Free University of Brussels, VUB, but also at the MOBI Research Center. He is also leading the ePower's Efficient Power Electronics Powertrain and Energy Solution Research Group with more than 40 researchers. He's the author of a lot of scientific publications, more than 170 publications, 4 prizes, and also 2 patent applications. And he's also an active member of ECVIA 420, EARPA, and Artemis, not to mention all. So Omar, the floor is yours now. Thank you. You have 15 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Thanks for a very nice introduction. Indeed, that we are really focused on Assured as a really a way to go for boosting electrification in city. Maybe it's working. Yes. Okay. So, as already Patrick mentioned, the name is really fast and a smart charging solution for full-size urban heavy-duty applications. So within Assured, we were focused on buses, trucks, what we call medium truck for refuse and so on, and also small vans. So this is why we really focus on the urban utility. And here you can see some key facts of Assured. Last week, we succeed to have the final event of Assured. In collaboration with UITB, it was very nice and successful event. It was also live. Again, thanks to see you again face-to-face. That is very nice to have you on board today. Is really crossing the COVID and other crises that we are facing now. So Assured is 39 partners from 12 countries. So we are together, collaborated to achieve a very unique results from Assured. And the total budget of Assured was 23,648 million. And you have 18, the funded one is 18 and 657,000. So you can see a lot of partners. Most of the OEMs, all the charger providers, a lot of support from cities. So we succeed to have really having a very unique project, giving a really direct input to the cities, helping the BTA, BTO for their strategy. As you can see also that the duration for this project was 48 months, is 4 years. Of course, due to the COVID and also the deployment in cities, we asked the Commission to extend the project with 6 months, and this month is the last month of Assured. So the last day of Assured is 31st of March. If you go further, so as you can see here, we have really a key objectives within Assured. First of all, that we have really the development of next generation of fast charger. It's not fast charger that we talk about 300. We are talking about above 450, so up to 600 kilowatt. And also ensuring the modularity. What does it mean? You can also use it for different vehicle as already in urban use. If you go further, that we have really a high interoperability. This is our objective, to have high interoperability between the bus, the truck, and the charger within the cities. Because the what we call transportation or transport authorities or BTO is bus operators in cities, they have really a challenge when you have the tender. So when you make the tender, you have to make a compromise solution. I need the charger, I need the bus, I need the charger, I need the truck. So the only solution that we need to ensure the interoperability. So interoperability has several items that will come later, especially for fast charger. So this is really a very nice outcome for Assured to the cities. Operators. So, and then we go for really standardization. So once we confirm the interoperability, we need to have a guidelines. We have a standards. So we also provide a roadmap for interoperability solution for fast charger. And then we have really also not high power, but also another kind of solution. So wireless charger. So in another project, I think it's within Horizon 2020, and also FB7 with really inductive chargers called unplugged, with the power is 3.7, with the idea of really inductive, very simple, very stationary. And then we go for fabric projects, and fabric with, we call it semi-dynamics, and there we have 20 kilowatt. But here, in a short, we achieved a charger above 100 kilowatt with high efficiency, is 94, will come later. As already the commission asked is 90%, we go more than 90%. You can see it later once I come back. And then, once you do the charging, the bus lines, and also the standardization, we need to have a tool to manage, to simulate the scenarios, to help the city to have a right decision, right combination between the buses and the charger. Where I can put the charger, what is the size of the battery, what is the size of the bus, is 12 meter or 18 meter, that all scenarios already, hundreds of simulations are done to fit the needs of the cities. If you go further, that we have also a demonstration, so we never forget this demonstration. We need to prove the interoperability solution. The tool that we developed is already in life, is working. So we have 6 OEMs and 5, of course, 6 OEM, they also provided 5 e-buses, and we have 12 meter and 18 meter, and 2 e-trucks, and 2 van, and demonstrated in 5 cities, with upscaling to fleet up to 100 buses in the cities. So we have really a combination between the buses and the charger. We have also 3 chargers, really fast charger from ABB, Yema, and Heliox. And we have also another concept for charger will come later, is from the ground. That is ground charger is coming from Alstom. So here we can see the result that we have, what we mentioned before, that ensuring the interoperability between the bus and charger. And this is one of the key items that we deliver to the city operator to ensure this capability. You see what I mean by interoperability of the charger? You can see different type of the charger. You have the charger is really inverted bento, we call bento down, so it's coming from the charger itself to the vehicle on top. And another one is called roof mounted, is bento up, so it's coming from the vehicle. As you can see here this is the arm go up to connect it to the charger. So this is 2 types that is really high power, up to 600 kilowatt. And if you further, that we have also the ground. As you can see here you have the ground coming from ground charger concept coming from Alstom. And here we can also charge up to 600 kilowatt. Where this all connected to electric buses, but also connected to vehicle. We have Volvo also, Volvo contributed in the project by 2 vehicle solution, truck and buses, and also ensuring the interoperability during the charging between buses and trucks. And here also we have also MIN, they also deliver a refuse truck that could also be used in the cities, and here also we can charge with fast charger. So we have all the OEMs here, as you can see, Volvo, Iveco, MIN, VDL, Erizar, Solaris, that all the OEMs that we have, okay? So here we go for interoperability reference. So as I mentioned before, that is really important to deliver to the cities and also the bus operators, the interoperability between the buses and the charger. And here we can also download this deliverable and what is shared with the standard communities. So as you can see here, as I mentioned, interoperability, we have 4 items. First one is the mechanical interface between the buses and the charger. As you can see also, you have here top-down, bottom-up bento or the ground. And then you have the interfaces from electrical side. So you have mechanical electric to transfer the power, but you still have the communication. So the bus could talk to the charger. So this also has been already done as communication protocol for interoperability. And then we have also how we can test the interoperability. So we provide standard test protocols. If you have a fast charger and you have the bus, you have to follow really dedicated procedure to test the combination. So here you can see and download this, we call it interoperability reference coming from assured from a charging system. Again, we go for really the interoperability because it's really important that we do also the interoperability that could really make to ensure the interfaces between different buses, different charger, so we can have no issue anymore when you have the combination. So we help the city operator to have more freedom in the tenders, because in the tender, they should have really a charger, a bus, to have really a request for deployment of this infrastructure and so on. But now there is no constraints about, this charger is compatible, yes or no. Now I have ability, this year I can order buses from VDL, next year I will order buses from Iveco. So there is no a challenge there in the integration cities due to the interoperability. Thanks to this, a very unique deliverable for Assured. And here also we see the improvement of customer experience, because when you have the interaction between the charger and the buses, and there is also passenger inside the buses, and they see the deployment of the charging, and here we have the customer feedback from the operator and also the end user. And of course, now we have eliminated a very crucial element from the deployment of electrification city, which is the interoperability, because it was really a major concern how you can charge a charger from different brand, from different charger providers, and now the answer is assured. We call it ensured this interoperability. Of course, that will increase also the penetration of the market. So now we have really requests from other countries, also from Canada, from US, to have really shared experience that already ongoing. So this is really unique value for our projects. As I mentioned before, we succeed to have really 100 kilowatt inductive charger. And here you can see that we achieve 94%. So this has been implemented in electric van and already demonstrated in the city. And then also we have already ensured the lower EMC, this electromagnetic interference, at really the standard switching frequency that already recommended by the standard, where you have really 83 kilohertz. Of course, it's also again giving the busway for inductive system. But it was also a question last time in the final event from one of the audience, that how this will work with charger, with electric buses. That could work, yes. The issue is, for electric buses, really large battery, what you could do is you minimize the battery and you do dynamic charger. But the issue is the infrastructure. So is the city ready for that? It's still what we heard from last time, the city is not really ready for huge invest in infrastructure to implement really dynamic charger. But the concept is really confirmed, is really working, but we can achieve this in buses with multi-segmental 100 kilowatt charger inside. But the only thing that we see is the challenge of the infrastructure availability in the cities. So, and also the road regulations. So, if you go further, that we mentioned the tool. This very important tool that we also succeed to have it already there developed, where already not coming from Assured, but is building upon another project is called Elliptic, where we start with really single bus, single line. So we also locate the charge and so on. But here, we deliver a tool that also manage more than 100 buses inside the lines. You can also have flexibility to move buses from line to line. That is easy to be done. You can test several scenarios for charging time, charging power, and so on. And also, you have really introduced smart management. So we are talking about smart management for management the bus itself and management from charging. So when I can charge, which time availability, and the reschedule again the bus timing due to the fact of the big hour and so on, that already done. So we also introduced for buses, because this is one of the crucial point, is some energy management, what we call eco-driving and eco-charging, eco-comfort. We realized in the next slide, we can find that this is the most important conclusion. So via this strategy, we succeed to have energy saving up to 35% for 12-meter buses and 45% for 18-meter buses, where you can have the eco driving, eco charge, and eco comfort. As you can see here, this is the improvement that we achieved due to the fact of the eco features, where we can find the most impacted one is eco driving and eco comfort. The eco charging is less, is 4%, but it has also impact on the system. Here, the final impact of the project, as I mentioned to you, is the high interoperability, enhancing the fleet operation thanks to the reducing of the charging time, lower TCO for the fleet operation, less impact on the grid stability. So what I mean by improve the grid stability with lower TCO, with lower total harmonic distortion. And also we succeed to achieve a lower CO2 up to 55% compared to the baseline at fleet size. And again, we conclude that we have achieved 45% saving. As you can see here also, in the city, it was also a question, can we use band to up or band to down and so on? There is no direct solution. So you can select as you want because the interoperability is already achieved. So there is no worry. So this is based on the combination between the OEMs and the charger. And then we have already what we call the guide, the deployment phase of the assured. We give a deployment strategy. How can implement a fast charger and heavy duty buses in the city? And this has been used as a reference for the PTA and PTO. We'll go further for some questions that I have received or I have to answer. I don't know how I have to answer here, but you can see it also in my presentation. We received, there is a need from research after assured. What would be after assured? As you mentioned that we have listened to the needs of the cities, and what was really a critical or a key questions from them about the depots, what we call overnight charging systems there at depots, and the space for this one is really a challenge for the cities and the bus operator to find the increase in the electric buses, because you need to have the same surfaces of the transportation. So you need to have really more research to have really smart and green depots. And then you have really the multiple use of the charger, what we call hub charger, that enable the integration between different transportation means. The second one is the question coming, what the contribution to 2.0? Indeed, we have a huge contribution to 2.0 because we succeed to reduce the CO2. And also this, really the ecosystem is really, life cycle assessment already improved. Also achieving the energy saving, and we have now the problem with energy. So energy saving already achieved here because it's smart use of the charger. So we can achieve up to 45%. So that could be used for extending the range, or you minimize the size of the battery up to the selection for the operator. And also flexible tool that could enable the city operator to test and evaluate different scenario in the cities. So that would be a nice tool for them to use. What else that we have already, what would be the next after assured? So we have a very nice discussion also in assured event that there is a call is called EBRT. And there we have most of assured members, they are there within more or less the same coordination. So we have already there to share also the tools from assured and also the interoperability guidelines and other activity from assured. So here we have also how much time that we gain or we had achieved to really enable the city faster deployment. We call post the electrification. I think what we receive from the city operators, we succeed to reduce the time by 50% due to the fact that interoperability was really a crucial point, and we solved this question to them. So here we have also the standardization and interoperability that also will be used for not only the cities that already demonstrated the solution, but also the city that outside in Europe, they are able to use the same standards. And all the standard bodies, they already implemented in the tenders for the operators. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omar, for your very interesting presentation. The two keywords I would retain from your project, which is mostly on heavy-duty vehicles, being bus or light-duty vehicles for freight transport, is interoperability and standardization, especially for high-power charging systems. And we look forward for the implementation of this system in other cities, the 5 demo cities that you are in the project, and maybe through other European projects, but also in some other cities. We'll take all the questions of the two projects after the second presentation. We'll now move to the second presentation, which is the SOLUTIONSplus project that will be made by this project coordinator, Oliver La. Oliver is heading the Urban Living Lab Center, in collaboration center between the TU Berlin, the Wuppertal Institute for Climate, Environmental and Energy, the MIT and UN Habitat. He coordinates the Urban Electric Mobility Initiative, UEMI, in other words. And prior to that, Oliver worked also at UN Habitat, UN Environment, UNDP, ITF OECD, and in GIZ on urban mobility and climate change issues. He was also, importantly, for this work we're doing there today, one of the co-lead authors of the 5th IPCC assessment report. The SOLUTIONSplus project that we'll be presenting is resulting from the Green Vehicle Code 2019. In fact, this project is a flagship project on international cooperation on urban mobility and sustainable electrification in large urban areas in developing and emerging economies. In fact, in 2020, the Commission decided to launch several flagship projects on different areas to tackle global challenges like CO2 reduction at global level, but also local emission and air quality. And SOLUTIONSplus is resulting from one of these calls. So Oliver, the floor is yours if you want to join me. It's here.
An eye on the clock, so 15 minutes from now. Thank you very much, Patrick, and also thank you very much for all the support so far on the project and on the global outreach of this wonderful activity that is brought together in SOLUTIONSplus. As the name indicates, there is a plus, so there used to be a solutions project, a comparatively small CSA that brought together an international partnership that we're taking forward and bring together quite a big family of partners in this program that started on the 1st of January 2020, and we're now in around about the midterm of the project, 47 partners and over 100 associated partners working in 10 living labs in Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And that partnership is bringing together various perspectives on the co-development process, on the innovative e-mobility solutions that we're bringing together here from local authorities, from academia, from civil society, from industry, from local startups. And we take a quite systemic approach to e-mobility. We don't just purely look at the innovation perspective. We are getting a little bit inspired by the road safety perspective of a safe system approach. We also believe that a safe system approach towards decarbonizing mobility is the way to go with regard to not just looking at the human error, let's say, within the choice of mobility solutions, but also it is the responsibility of the system, of local and national governments, of providers of different services of mobility solutions to provide sustainable mobility solutions that are stacking up with the unsustainable competitors, let's say, within that system. So we are taking that very systemic approach with capacities at the heart, with a focus on users, technologies, mobility services, and mobility infrastructures all around. And this is not how it should look like. There's a different picture in there, but we take that systemic approach towards the co-development process that we're having at the heart of SOLUTIONSplus, where we go informing decision makers on the various e-mobility solutions that are out there, provide opportunities for exchange of practitioners to get inspiration on solutions that have worked already and can be readily taken up, then initiate those partnerships, start implementing those in the demonstration activities, and then use the evidence that we gather from the demonstrations to scale up those projects towards impact at the global level. And that impact at the global level we take forward into a joint e-mobility platform that we coordinate with our colleagues from the Global Environment Facility, the UN Environment and the International Energy Agency, where we take the learnings from our 10 living labs and replicate them gradually over the next decade almost, over the GEF 7 and GEF 8 programs to over 50 countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, to share all the learnings in the e-mobility sphere that we're developing here in this project. One of the key repositories of that is the e-mobility toolbox that we're setting up with our colleagues and is already online now. This is, of course, also an open invitation for everyone in the field of e-mobility solutions to share knowledge products in all forms on capacities, guides, tools for calculations, for best practice sharing, etc. To have this as a source book for e-mobility solutions more broadly. This is also why we don't necessarily purely brand this as a project deliverable, but have this more as a open platform for everyone to use. And of course, that all we embed into our capacity building activities, as well as the startup incubator that we're running throughout the program. And now we're getting to the juicy bits, to the various demonstration activities from all around the world that start from very highly advanced solutions, such as the ones we've just heard from Assured, which to very pragmatic, almost frugal innovations, you might say, that we use in other living labs. So going over to Latin America, which so far in the project, as you can tell, probably we have not done yet, but we have a wonderful team over there, and we have managed to develop quite a productive co-development progress, even in with the limitations that we have due to COVID. So in Quito, the city of Ecuador, the capital of Ecuador, we focus on a living lab that includes both passenger and freight. The objective of the local authority is to decarbonize the city center and to bring in e-mobility solutions there. So this is focusing in particular on the last mile connectivity for both passenger and freight to connect to the bus rapid transit system, but also to deliver services and goods across the old town. In Montevideo, a similar approach to the logistics side, so last mile connectivity for the logistics. In each of those cases, we develop electric four-wheelers for last mile logistics together with local startups. So the way that this works, the usual approach in SOLUTIONSplus is that we have an industry provider from the consortium. In that case, it's Valeo. The French company provides powertrains to local startups to co-develop a vehicle. A key objective here is to not just purely put a vehicle that is already on the shelf, imported and operated, but have, and this is also reflecting back to our main objective to deliver both on the Paris Agreement as well as on the new urban agenda and the SDGs, also have local value chain and generation being contributed by the project. So there is a local startup that works with a European industry provider, and we facilitate the operations together with the public transport authorities so that those services that are being provided, in most cases by private sector operators, are synchronized with services from the public transport authority so that they service rather than compete. Similar approach in our Asian cities. Hanoi focuses on the phase out of conventionally fueled two-wheelers in the city center, and we support the city there with bringing in electric two-wheelers, e-bikes, as well as scooters, with a company there focusing on the integration of the services with a public transport operator, localizing the vehicles, because the vehicles themselves are reasonably well advanced already. So we also make sure that we pick up the startup companies, or sometimes there are already quite advanced companies where they currently are, and inject added value there instead of reinventing the wheel, basically. So in Pasig, We focus on the development, also on the logistics vehicles, slightly bigger than what you have seen in the Latin American cases, with a quite advanced company there already redeveloping a vehicle. A similar approach here as well with the powertrains coming from Valeo. Then the design is coming from engineers from Manila, who are also then sharing and coaching their colleagues in Kathmandu, where we have a somewhat similar vehicle, but more towards a passenger service. The vehicle that you see down here is slightly bigger than the usual tuk-tuk that you normally see. So this is almost like a mini bus, which is a e-mobility concept that is out there for some time already, and we are basically revamping this with this project. And I'm just trying to see if I'm doing well for time, but my wouldn't let me. Okay, Patrick will tell me at least. So in that overall process, we continue in that phase now over in Africa, focusing on electric two-wheelers in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, where there is a very high level of motivation from the national government as well as the city government to decarbonize the transport sector and to bring in e-mobility solutions. We work with a company called Ampersand on electric motor taxis. So the redevelopment or the development of affordable electric motorbikes that are used as a taxi service. So this is one part of the innovation, and the second part is usually those taxis are competing with the public transport system. We are trying to bring that together in one mobility as a service application so that they are more like a feeder service rather than competing with the public transport. And similar for the e-bike sharing system that we're developing there with a startup called Gura Bike in Kigali. In a similar way, we look at the bike itself on the vehicle development as well as on the service of that e-mobility solution servicing the public transport system. And in a similar way, also close collaboration with the public transport operator in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, where the Bajajs, so the more classical tuk-tuks, the 3 to 5 passenger mini taxis, are being electrified. We do both the conversion of current Bajajs, so tuk-tuks, as well as the development of new ones, also to see how they stack up with regard to the value chain of weight, the import of different parts of the vehicle, to see how we can then roll this out across the continent, because this is obviously something that is a very pertinent issue across Africa, but also India and Latin America as well. So those cross-continent learnings are something that we will take back as well. In Europe, we look at different elements of the innovation value chain, let's say. In Madrid, very similar to what we just heard from Assured, a high-powered fast charging solution that is being tested with inverted pantographs that are provided by ABB to the public transport operator, EMT. And that is a solution that could be an inspiration for a next step in the sister city of Quito. So we're currently looking into the transfer of that innovation across those cities from the learnings from the demonstration in Madrid. And then in Hamburg, we're trying hard, and it's a challenge to turn the electric kick scooters into something that is usable rather than a nuisance, so that something that is servicing in the outskirts toward the public transport system, as we had in the other cases as well, rather than competes within the inner city with public transport provisions. So that's a fleet of 200 e-kick scooters that are currently rolling in our partner city, Hamburg. All of which, and basically while we are doing this, we continue to share those learnings with the global community. In that sense, I would like to also raise the flag for the next big thing that is happening on the capacity building side, which is the e-course on the electrification of public transport, of buses. That is starting later this month. So do go onto our website and register. You are very welcome to join us there across 6 very exciting modules. And some of those learnings from the Living Lab process and the exchange with urban change makers will also go up onto a more academic product on the MIT edX platform that will be launched later in May this year. And just reflecting, of course, we're just in the midterm, so just taking stock a little bit from where we are with achieving our expected impacts. So we do overall want to achieve that capacity building and spread the word quite widely across. So we have now reached over 800 urban change makers so far. More to go on that front, and we have started with the 10 living labs, 9 of which are supported by SOLUTIONSplus directly. The 10th, Nanjing, is funded by domestic sources. And now in the next phase this year, we will be going out to the follower cities that are supported primarily by the JEF7 program, and then take the benefits from our learnings forward to implementation activities. So that's moving. We are, of course, also making sure that we reflect all our learnings towards the various key performance indicators that reflect to the new urban agenda, as well as the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. And all those concepts that we are developing are not just for us, not just for these partner cities, not just for the startups that we're directly working with, but we are aiming to generalize those to then have others to take them up into a business, into a public transport operations and service. So all of that is a long-term effort towards capacity building and embedding and spreading and replicating all those services. So my 15 minutes are off. So this is SOLUTIONSplus. Please continue to join us. We're out there for almost 2 more years, so more stuff to be seen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you very much, Oliver, for your challenging presentation. We could see, take your mask, yes, indeed. We could see with your presentation that the impact on lowering carbon in cities, carbon emission in cities through e-mobility solution is important only in Europe, but it is a global problem. So it can have a very big impact also in these emerging economies where the problem is even worse in many cases. So it's interesting to see also the challenges also between the European, and we can further discuss that in the Q&A session, between the European partners and the outside partners, and how we can build on that to build a community of living labs around the world. We are moving now to the question and answer session, and I will pass the floor to my nice colleague Jan Fay, who will moderate the presentation. So don't be shy. We will, I'm sure Jan will ask some questions, but there will be also opportunity for you in the next half an hour to ask questions on this interesting project. Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, this, you pointed me to, so I have to.
No.
Now is it working? Oh, very good. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Now comes the hard part. We would like to create some dialogue here in the room, so please ask good questions. I see Pietro has already got the microphone in his hand, waiting to ask him good discussion questions. So Pietro, I'll give you the floor to start with.
So it's a question for all of you, because there are some pioneers in urban mobility here, starting from Patrick, and Omar reminded me what I forgot to account it for in the last years. So now if we look at 2020, we see that electromobility in Europe is 4.5 million e-bikes and 875 pure electric vehicles. So per every pure electric vehicles, we see 6 e-bikes. And the number of kilometers run by bikes is about 12 billion kilometers, by cars 9 billion, with a good approximation, I would say, because I am arranging the numbers every year a little bit. But Omar, you remind me what I always forget. Because with the number of cars, you have to multiply by 1.6. With the buses, I would say you have to multiply by 20. But what it is missing here is the number of buses sold in 2020 and the number of kilometers on average that they run. Once we have this, we can really make it, we close the circle saying electromobility is buses more than cars and bikes, but they are almost the same level, I would say. But we should also emphasize this aspect, at least for Europe. But in any case, the e-bike world is really growing unbelievably. Okay, that's another point. Okay, I need the number for buses. Please. Thank you.
For me, I didn't have the right number because it's really coming from the finger. That the deployment in the city, for example, in Brussels, that we are not assured that we have.
If you can speak closer to the microphone, John Thomas, please.
For example, in Brussels city, that we have MEDB, Speedberg, really the famous operator there. They have several filters, and they have the strategy. We can talk about the strategy from the operator. Huh? So the full fleet of 700 buses in Brussels, for example, will be electrified by 35. So they are falling a bit 5 years above the limit, but it doesn't work like this. Technical issue.
Just take this one.
Okay, so I can give you from the number that I have it from last week from MEVB, but also the same for Barcelona, the same for Madrid. So we need to look at the strategy of the city. What will be the end date for them to electrify the full fleet? We are talking about 2,000 electric buses and other things in some cities like Brussels and also Flanders area. We talk about also around 1,500 in Barcelona. So it's really the strategy of the city to answer what is the final time for electrification, full electrification of the fleet. And here within Assure, we answered the question on interoperability. So they can accelerate the strategy, what I could say.
Yes, my point was indeed this. If you have the numbers, you can facilitate the strategy of the authorities, okay? But we still do not have the numbers on number of buses and number of kilometers and the average people per bus. And then the people immediately understand that the bus is important, as much as the bike, perhaps. Okay.
So I have a question here in the second row.
Well, this is Marco Tella from Extreme Engineering, a new startup founded last year. Well, actually, I would add on to what Pietro was saying. And coming back to Brussels after 2 years, because we were all stuck in our room for the COVID issues, I see everything is changed from consumer mobility. It's not only bikes and electric cars and that, but a lot of scooters that are spread around the city. So I think to the number, we need to add also this and consider now that the mobility is completely changing. So with people, there are people with, let's say, shared scooters, shared e-bikes, but also people with their own scooter, which are bringing into the bus or on the metro and then picking up. So I think that the mobility is completely changed now. So the interoperability is something that we have to understand, also considering all these aspects. With something is shared, something is owned, something is exchanged. So that's quite a complicated figure. But what is definitely clear is that the transition to electric means of transportation is a reality, no doubt from this point of view. Sorry. No, the question is whether we are considering this in our in this project and in the future developments. So the mobility, which is something fluid, let's call it like this, which is a very used word in the last.
Just choose this one, Jan, because it seems like this one's
Thank you. Then I would pose the question, two dimensions. The question to Oliver on a global scale, and the question to Omar, say, on the interoperability scale. Okay?
First of all, I just wanted to. I'll do this one. I follow up first on the first question on the cost. Happy to tweet it. We had a little paper on the cost per passenger kilometer comparing the different modes on that. But so one key element that we in SOLUTIONSplus would also like to foster, and this is where also the innovation that we're currently testing and co-developing in Latin America, Africa, and Asia will then also come back to Europe with much more affordable, fit-for-purpose, resource-efficient, energy-efficient types of vehicles and services, because that focus on a 2-ton electric or non-electric SUV will not bring us to resource-efficient decarbonization pathways. So this is also what we try to bring back home.
Yeah, again to the interoperability, as I mentioned, it's very critical topic, what I could say, for not only for heavy duty, for other mobilities. There is ongoing standard, especially for hub chargers. So hub charger that will be really spread a lot in the coming years. Feed also the need of the other light duty vehicle, a scooter, 3-wheeler, 2-wheeler, and also electric vehicle, heavy duty, medium duty. That is really hub is really one of the key items now in the standard to make really standardization plan that we could see how we can make this standard really fit the needs of the cities. So indeed, we need to also keep in mind also the impact on the grid. So in Assured, we prove that there is less impact if we have really a good management of the fleet. So that would become, if we have the increase in the e-mobility, like you mentioned, now all are electrified. Everyone has personal a scooter or bike that you need to also charge, where he can charge. So here, this mobility hub and other location for charging that enable the people to charge, that is really the crucial element for the cities. Of course, the infrastructure should be also considered. Regulation should be also considered. As you know, when you start in the standardization, it takes time. So it's not just, okay, I need to have this, tomorrow is the standard. It's impossible. So it takes 5 to 10 years to have really a ready standard. Of course, some OEMs also, some provided, they provide the technology based on local standards, also fit some norms. But indeed, we need to focus on this interoperability topic for other means. That is really also topic could be considered for the next research innovation action, I guess.
So I think the decisive word that you mentioned in that reply was the management aspects. And I think that would answer the question about this variability, the changing of mobility, even over the last 2 years. So I think this is the point that Omar was making in terms of managing the systems. And it's a system approach, system view. So there's another question here.
One year.
Quito in the back. But we'll take this one first. He was first, I think. Were you first?
Sorry, ladies first.
Okay, oh, sorry.
Hi,
I saw
everyone.
Guido.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tali Hadzakis. I can see from your discussions there's an over-reliance of the acceleration of the electric mobility on the national grid. And we know that the national grid is at the breaking point in Europe. So how are you going to deal with the bottleneck of the national grids in terms of electricity distribution? And also, is that wise to rely on the national grid, given that we have a war at the outskirts of Europe, and also the national grids, given that they are more and more cyber security, if you like, dependent? So how are you going to cope with these issues? Thank you.
Again, I would like to divide the question up into two answers. I'll let Omar go first this time from the national grid, from the management side, your experience there, And then I think we're all waiting in suspense to hear Oliver describe the national grid in these developing countries is maybe even more of a challenge. So the question I would have to add to that is, what can we learn from them?
Yeah, again, the impact on the grid. So we come back to the energy that we need to tackle now. As you can see, also the electric bus could charge overnight. So we need to have really, we call a smart management of the ecosystem. So if we have the electric buses already charging overnight, and you have the tram and metro, or over the day already working, so we can share the energy. So that is really the way that we do for smart management. Indeed, also again, that we need to invest more linked to Green Deal calls and also projects, that we invest more on green depots and other wind turbine close to the depots. Also, all this integration could reduce the impact on the grid, local grid, what I could say. But as I mentioned, again, is a smart management of the whole ecosystem, interaction with another mobility, charging. That is really the key point. Thank you.
Great. So first of all, on the energy demand side of things, coming back to that first point that we made on, let's say, the frugality or the resource efficiency of the vehicles, it makes a huge difference to charge either a 2-ton SUV or an electric scooter for a person to roam around. And of course, indeed, one of the things that we are doing in SOLUTIONSplus, but also in a sister project called CESA, where we focus specifically on the integration of energy systems and mobility in Africa, is, of course, decentralized charging solutions that are well integrated with energy provision, energy access for all, and then, of course, charging solutions for innovative e-mobility solutions that, again, we can take back home here as well to decentralize the charging question in Europe as well.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you. So now we have a question here in the middle.
Hello, this is Mehmet Golhan from Logica Field Labs. You can hear me? Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that most of the projects that we've been working on are on supply side. You know, we are developing amazing new technologies, but not enough on creating a marketplace that actually encourages good behavior and discourages bad behavior. You know, we've seen successful market applications in financial markets, in telecom, mobility, mobile data networks, but when it comes to transportation, we seem to be focusing not on pricing behavioral and road usage and things like that, but mostly on developing new technologies, yet there are a lot of studies that show that these technologies are not going to solve the problem with congestion and emissions, etc. And the reason I'm asking this question is because we are focusing on these problems, how to create dynamic pricing mechanisms that are actually market-based, similar to mobile data networks in transport. But when we speak to cities, everybody's so afraid of pricing and regulation that they want to stay away from these. So we're actually keep developing new technologies that will not necessarily bring the behavioral change that we're looking for, especially in energy reduction and shared mobility and all that stuff. You know, if a car is electric, it still has empty seats, it has empty seats. If we deploy more buses, we can see in even rush hours, empty buses all over Brussels. How do we adjust dynamically any kind of pricing based on seats, for example, and vehicle sizes and types? And this is all possible today. All other markets have shown it, except transportation. And yet there's very little focus on this kind of work in the research program. What do we do about this is my question.
That's a very good question, and please attend the session this afternoon at 5 o'clock. The INSET EV is also interested in understanding the user perspective, so a little advertisement for our session this afternoon. But I like, Oliver is chomping at the bit to answer the question from the global perspective, and I think Omar might want to comment also.
Thanks. So this is why I started with the safe system approach that we're taking, right? So we have talked about the vehicles and the services, but I hope I was reasonably repetitive, that this is, integrated in pricing, in planning, in policy, and of course embedded into a local and a national policy framework that includes the fiscal incentives as well as disincentives a lot. And of course, in particular, the disincentives, doubling the taxation on pricing or making it, adjusting it onto the resource or energy or CO2 intensity of the vehicle is a challenging thing to do. But if you embed that into a system that is transparent and understandable for all, that is built on the same vision, and then basically just redistributes from inefficient services and vehicles to more efficient ones and makes them all accessible as well, then we have a deal. But it is a highly complex and highly also policy interrelated system. So this makes it challenging. But the good thing is, if this would be easy, anyone could do it, right? So this is why we are needed to solve that challenge. Omar.
Yeah, I think your question is really tricky. It's not easy because really it's not one ecosystem. You are really taking multiple ecosystem. If you, for example, in the city, you can have at night one bus, 12 meter, running with 2 passengers. That is not logic. So this is really the way of really managing the capacity, so demanding capacity. So this why, again, that will be taken in new project, I guess it's called EPRT, that is really consider this ecosystem more flexibility on the dynamic pricing, so make a competition on the pricing compared to another means, to really promote the electrification city thanks to the buses and other means. But this is the way that we do. You need to really make capacity management instead of really electrify directly, because at night you can run maybe small 9-meter buses instead of 18-meter. That is really the way of scheduling and managing the capacity is really one of the key items. But indeed, you are correct. That should be driven by also pricing and other things. So that is an ongoing activity that will be tackled in the next proposal, I think.
So, and again, we do have this high on the agenda, the user-centric approach. So we have a question right there behind you, and then we have David Storer, and then we have the person here.
Thank you. Miguel Zarzuela from CIRFE. I have a question for Omar. I found very interesting the inductive charter that you have developed in Azure. I will present this afternoon what are we doing in citie project. So it's a project very focused on wireless charging. So the question here is we are really looking into interoperable wireless charging. So I would like to know if you have any active action to promote any standards of or frequency range in the system that you have developed, and also what are, if you have plans for the commercialization of the equipment that you have developed within the project.
Again, inductive system, I think we start this research on 2014, I guess. This was Unplugged project. And there we give feedback to the ISO. The ISO group 69, I'm active in this group for inductive system. It's still ongoing activity on standardization, but at least now we have the what we call generic guidelines for the inductive system, because it's still not mature enough for deployment in the cities. Of course, some in the stationary, what we call for electric vehicle, stationary is more what we call attractive solution at garage or other thing that could be used personally. But for semi-dynamic and dynamic is really required more infrastructure needs. So this is really another layer for standardization. But at least for inductive system, you know the magnetic field range and also the frequency that you need to operate, the efficiency that you are targeting based on power. So all this already standard. So I guess for this stationary application or charging system is already there. The only still missing is the semi-dynamic and dynamic, because it's really linked to the infrastructure. And this really a lot of what we call forces that will need to be tackled. Thank you.
And I think there's still a challenge with the spurious frequencies that you find at higher frequencies. So David.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. David Storer from CLEPA, the Association of Automotive Suppliers. This is a question really for Omar. In a study by McKinsey that was published just yesterday, that was supported by ourselves, but mainly by the vehicle manufacturers, the result is that the number of charging points needs to increase immediately by an order of magnitude in order to be where we want to be by 2030, be where we could be by 2030 in terms of electromobility. You know, it seems from the Assured project that you've developed important specifications for the charge point, particularly for heavy-duty vehicles. I just want to be assured that the specifications which have been developed will be passed on to the right authorities in order to make sure that we achieve what we want to achieve.
I think what you mentioned, that is true, will be transferred to the right authorities, that's for sure. Also, we, from Assured perspective, that we are active in sharing standardization for heavy-duty charging system bodies. So there, all the information from Assured went there already. A lot of discussion with charger provider and OEMs there. So I think we come to consistent way to deploy fast charging in cities. Of course, the other charging, like for light electric vehicles, is coming. I agree with you that we need more chargers. The 10T that will be network should be extended. We need to have a really clear roadmap. The roadmap for fast charger on road, highways, other locations should be clear. And also it's coming from the what you call the strategy of the cities. So the cities should also invest in this, not only coming from research project, what I could say, but also coming from the city. The city, they have already their strategy to locate a fast charger, charging points to be used by several users. So I think this is the way to go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a question here.
Thank you. My name is Rodrigo Alfahel, representing Lindholmen Science Park, an innovation network in Sweden. This is a question out of curiosity. It's about interoperability. You spoke about it's heavy-duty vehicles, buses, and the trucks. And you gave example of some development. But what I see, there's a sector that is usually not discussed in when we talk about transport, and that's the construction and construction machines. So what about that and interoperability? Because it is developing now, and many electric machines are also developing. Any considerations in the project, or maybe any future considerations? Thank you.
So what we call off-road, I think. Is that correct? Yeah.
I think in the future already some calls already off-road application, but I could answer you directly for construction vehicle is also truck. Huh? So truck carrying the concrete, whatever, the container, whatever, that's already filling the need of the power. We are standardized the power. So if you are going to charge with 350 kilowatt, 500, 600, this is the standard that will be followed. So is answer also this one in indirect way. But of course, the deployment of this electrified off-road vehicle, that I think is also, there is another program for that, but is already in line what we have already from interoperability, because we make the interoperability standard from point of view of charging capabilities. Of course, with interfaces that could be considered for vehicle trucks, and if you consider that off-road trucks already under the layer of the trucks that we have in the same range, what I could say medium truck, and also maybe a bit of higher tons, maybe 30 ton or something like this, that is between medium and heavy. So, but again, is the standard already could be applicable for this kind of vehicle.
Yeah, and our primary focus is, of course, road transport. But if we have a spillover effect, synergy effects, we can use this as well. But our focus has to be focused to the road transport. So that would be the first answer. And the second answer is spillover is always welcome where possible. So more questions. Yes. Oh, sorry. Okay. Lucy's the boss. So we have time for one more question.
So thank you that I can have the last. I'm the coordinator of the Park for Some project. We visited lots of on-street parking, and we want to get rid of it in our cities, I think. But the other problem is when we are dealing with parking of electric cars in garages, then the firemen say, well, there's a big problem in terms of security. So how will we handle this? Have you experience in this?
So the safety issue involved with moving an electric car as opposed to moving what's internal combustion engine? Okay. Who would like to field that question?
We don't deal with cars, that's the thing.
For me, for the safety, the project was tackling heavy duty. So I think your point is really for safety requirements. It's really covered on the charging power and also the magnetic field around, because the passenger, when you have the charger on top and you are inside the bus, they get a bit of panic because maybe they're afraid, maybe something will happening. No, it's also within the interoperability and also the norm that we have. We already ensure the safety of charging. So that already ensured in assured, what I could say. But for other means, that is not in the projects.
But I think the question was a little bit different in the sense that things that happen in cities, for example, if the fire department has to put out a fire and they're faced with moving an electric car, the question is, are they allowed to move the electric car? I think that's out of the scope of the presentation. So I think it's an important question. I think it's something we have to keep in mind. And there are many questions like this. The overhead wires on the motorway, this idea of the Cantary. Helicopters for rescue missions can't land where wires are over the highway. So these are questions that we have to keep in mind, and we have to keep revisiting the questions. And I think it's probably something, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, for the cities' missions to put this in the challenge for the cities, for the mission for the cities. So the 100 cities that were mentioned before this morning, that would be something that they could tackle. So keep the question on the table, keep the question on the radar screen. That's it. These are important questions, and I think we have to uncover them as we go along. So we have to conclude. I think we're now encroaching on lunch, and I would like to thank everybody for very good dialogue, very good questions, and especially thank our presenters here and my colleague from the Commission, and have a good lunch. And the next session is going to start at 2 o'clock, I think. So see you then.
But honestly, the concern of the cities are more the price of the e-bus than the Uber things.